Hello my bunny buns, welcome back to another video. I am going to be doing a product review today. We're going to be comparing or reviewing a beautiful set of markers here from the company called COLORIT. Today we're going to be kind of testing to see how the markers stand up to the Copic markers. So you guys know I'm continuously doing comparison videos. Copic marker is quality standard in terms of professional standards. It is the marker to beat, and I have done product reviews in terms of touch versus Copic or the Winsor & Newton brush marker versus Copic, and now we're going to be doing the COLORIT marker versus Copic. And COLORIT itself is a US based company. They specialize in certain art supplies such as markers, gel pens, pencil crayon, and coloring books. You know, I'm always looking for alternatives, so I definitely went ahead and decided to compare it or to test the markers out and give an honest product review. The very first thing I'd like to bring your attention to before we get to the actual review is this beautiful set of markers. This is a set of 50 markers. The very first thing I noticed when I opened my mail, I received this in the mail, it came in a box, more or less sort of like this. Came in a box packaged like that, and within the box there was a beautiful set with a hard cover, or a hard case I should say. On the inside there is a very soft velvet like material or suede material, and the markers are just completely organized as markers should be. It's a very sturdy box, and the packaging itself kind of blew me away because for myself, I'm a huge package design fan. I love beautiful packaging, and it really tells me a lot about the company if they promote themselves in this regards. They provide their consumers with a beautiful packaging. Right off the bat, I was very impressed, and I was looking forward to testing out the markers. So for a set like this, retail price for 50 markers, it would be about $100. This is US dollars, and this is the retail price on their website. It includes 50 markers, double tip, dual tip. So we have the broad tip and we also have the bullet tip at the very end. They do have a smaller set of 24 markers. It also comes in a premium case, and this goes for about $50. A single marker themselves would cost about $3.99. If we're comparing US prices here, this comes to about, I would say, $2 to $3 cheaper than the Copic, the classic Copic marker. Now, I'm taking these prices off of the internet. Prices may vary depending on your local art store or your local market. In terms of the Copic prices, I am basing it off of the website DitBlick. It is approximately $524 for one of the classic Copics. So I did do a demonstration here. I did do a demonstration in terms of the colors. I selected a couple of the classic Copics because I don't actually own these, so I had to buy 3 of them. Something I want to bring your attention to is the fact that these ones, to get an honest comparison, I used the classic Copics. I used purple for the hair, and then I also used 2 skin tones from the classic Copics. So in terms of the colors, I tried to get as close as possible to the COLORIT. I bought a couple Copics. So for example, we have the pearl white Copic, and we also have the pearl white in the COLORIT. Same goes with the purple. We have the pale lavender in the Copic and the light periwinkle for the COLORIT. And then last but not least, for the sort of shadows on the face, I did take the raw silk for the Copics and then the sandbox for the COLORIT. I tried to test it, tried to get colors as close as possible to each other to make a comparison for you. And I did half of her face in COLORIT and half of her face in Copic. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will now be showing you guys a speed painting or a time lapse of the sketch that I drew, and I will be talking more about the comparison, pros and cons of COLORIT versus Copic. So we're going to be breaking down the comparison depending on different topics. The very first topic I want to discuss and kind of review is the actual shape of the pen itself. So I've always been more fond of round or triangle shape, which is what the COLORIT marker has. It has a triangle shape, which is quite easy to hold, while the Copic Classic is square in comparison. And this I've never really liked, but I have to kind of give the point to COLORIT in this case. I really enjoyed the way that it held in your hand. It was very comfortable to use. The second topic, or kind of benchmarker in terms of the review, is the actual color of the ink. I think this is one of the most important aspects of a marker. I really appreciate if the actual marker, the cap on the marker, reflects the actual color of the ink. And I was having a little bit of trouble with the COLORIT markers in terms of this ink really reflecting the color that was advertised in the color chart. This was especially noticeable for the skin tones, the lighter skin tones, I would say. So you can see here I've compared the color chart with the COLORIT and the Copic. I'm not comparing colors here, I'm just comparing the ink color to what was advertised in terms of the color codes or the color chart. So it almost seemed like the COLORIT markers were showing up a little bit darker than what was on the cap and what was on the color chart. And in comparison to Copic markers, I find that Copic markers are always honest in terms of the ink color. The cap highly reflects this aspect, as well as their color charts as well. That being said, this is not necessarily a bad thing. I do strongly believe that the COLORIT markers had a very high density in terms of the ink flow. The colors were extremely vibrant, they had a nice flow, the ink was strong. It was very easy to draw with, and I think that's something for a beginner set. I think it's fantastic to learn how to control the marker, to control the flow, to layer, and you really do get a sense of color vibrancy, and it has a very nice richness in terms of the tone. The sort of last thing I really look for is, can it blend? Blending is key. Blending is key to anything you do in terms of marker work, marker illustration. Again, guys, I'm not a professional in terms of marker. I really am still learning the technique, especially when it comes to working with bullet tips. I've never worked with bullet tips. I owned a pack of touch markers when I was a younger teenager, and I absolutely hated working with bullet tip, and this was kind of like a challenge in itself, how to work with it. I typically work with only brush markers, so this was fun, and I was really looking for the aspect of blending, how to blend, how can I achieve this with both brands. Now I have to say that I think it was much easier to blend with the Copic markers. I think just the way that the ink is less pigmented, it's more, I don't know really how to say this, it's not translucent, but it's just easier to blend. The ink is not so rich in terms of color, so you can apply layer after layer without getting a very rich dark color. The COLORIT markers were a little bit different, so with the very first layer there was a lot of color, it was very rich already, and as I tried to add more layers on top of layers, I noticed that the color, it was just getting a little bit hard to blend at certain points, and I couldn't really get that nice gradient happening. I tried, guys, I really tried, but maybe it's just because I'm not that professional in terms of marker work yet. But this was something that I really noticed as I was drawing the face. So just to summarize everything up, I think that the COLORIT markers are a good value in terms of what you get, especially regarding the quality. The ink flow is very, very nice. I was really impressed with how much ink actually comes out, the vibrancy of the colors. I was impressed by the packaging, the way that it was packaged in a hard shell kind of box. The quality of the markers as well, when you're holding them, it's very nice. The text doesn't rub off on the tips of the markers. The only kind of downside in my eyes would be the fact that the color of the ink does not necessarily match the tip of the marker as well as the color chart. For me, it's very important that it does match, because I do judge my purchases based on the color that I see on the cap. So if the color does not match in the end, this is a little bit of a, I don't know, it gets me a little bit down because I'm looking for specific colors at all times. So it has to be a little bit perfect in that sense. But apart from that, I do think that this brand is an excellent brand for beginners, for those who are looking into getting started with markers, who want a cheaper alternative to Copics. Generally speaking, I think you can achieve a lot, and I would highly, highly recommend that you check out their company, check out their website. They also have some really neat coloring books, which it was actually the first time I've ever used one, and that was a lot of fun. I have to say, I was drawing little fairies or coloring in little fairies, and with the coloring books, these markers work excellent. So thanks so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys have any comments or questions, please comment down below. I would love to read them and answer them. I would like to wish you guys a lovely, lovely day, and keep drawing, keep being awesome. I will see you guys very soon, hopefully doing a live stream this weekend, and I will be uploading a couple more videos. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!